You're listening to Permission To, the podcast where we dive into the science and soul of owning your worthiness as a perfectly imperfect human being. I'm your host, Sam Dew, psychotherapist, positive psychology coach, mama to a beautiful 5-year-old Amelie, and passionate advocate for living an inspired life. My aim is to show you that you have full permission to own your worthiness so that you can embrace your true nature and begin walking boldly toward your dreams. Let's dive in. Hello, my lovelies. Thank you for being here with me today for another episode. Today's episode is permission to upgrade the way you talk to yourself. And what I know to be true is that when you start to upgrade the way you talk to yourself and the way you talk about yourself, this can create a new set point in your worthiness, because just like we all have mental health, we all have worthiness. And I like to think about our self-worth and our worthiness on a continuum, and we tend to move up and down that continuum between feeling truly, truly worthy and feeling unworthy and not good enough. And things like what's going on in our lives, what's going on in our inner world can kind of move us between that continuum. But I want to help you create a new set point in your worthiness. And what's really interesting here is that the way you talk to yourself when no one else is around, when you're just in your own inner world, and also the way you talk about yourself almost confirms the level of worthiness that you're already embodying. So, for example, if you feel like you're not good enough, if you're someone who's really critical of yourself, then you might be in the habit, even without realizing it, of putting yourself down a lot. So you might kind of say to yourself, oh, see, I've done that again, I made that mistake again, or I'm always running late, or whatever the criticism is. You might do that, and that actually confirms your belief that you're not good enough. The same way, if you talk to yourself in a way where you're really nourishing and positive and really compassionate with yourself, then that kind of creates a spiral of more positive beliefs about your self-worth. So the way you talk about yourself is really important, and it also reflects, I guess, on how other people see you and how they perceive you. So this week's challenge, if it interests you, is to really pay attention to how you talk to yourself when you're having a rough day. If you're running late, if you're, you're having a difficult day with your toddler, or you're having a tough day at work, or something's going wrong with your business. Let's say you're launching and it's not going as well as you hoped. How you talk to yourself in those moments is really, really important here. And I just want to point out that so many of us can think that we have good self-worth, and often we do, but it can always improve, right? It's not a set and forget practice. But also, sometimes we think we have pretty good self-worth, but then if we spend a week kind of paying attention to how we talk to ourselves, we realize, actually, I don't feel that good about myself at the moment. So if you're not sure where your self-worth's at, or you're not really aware of how you've been talking to yourself lately, just permission to reconnect with that. Like maybe, a couple of times a day, just check in and pay attention to it. You could take a few notes in your diary. Just, what am I saying about myself? What stories am I telling myself? And then same with the way you talk about yourself. So when you describe yourself, like I'm ... I'm Sam, I might say I'm Sam, I'm Amelie's mum, or, I'm such an unorganized person, or I'm such a big procrastinator. Like, how do you describe yourself, and what do you say about yourself to people? And how do you feel when you say it? Like, how do you feel about the way that you describe yourself? So, invitation to consider both those things and to pay attention to them, because so often they're just happening out of our awareness on that unconscious level that we don't even realize we're doing it. Okay, and once you've done that, maybe you already know, maybe you're already like, yep, I know that this week I've been a bit hard on myself about this situation, or actually, you know what, I talk really, really kindly to myself, so maybe I don't need to listen to this episode. That's totally okay too. But just know that I feel for me, this is always a work in progress. And I think I've worked with CEOs of very large companies who, you know, on the outside, they look so confident and like you would just imagine that they, you know, feel so worthy, but actually often they still have this story and this belief that they're not good enough somehow. So yeah, just know that it's very human and very, very normal for this to go up and down. But anyway, what I wanted to share with you is 3 ways that you can upgrade the way that you talk to yourself. So once you've started to notice how you're talking to yourself, and this is a very evidence-based tool, and it's based on acceptance and commitment therapy. I've seen a lot of coaches use it. Brené Brown also uses this in one of her books. But essentially, one of the most powerful things you can do is to externalize that internal voice and the way you're talking to yourself. So if you say, if you notice that you're always saying to yourself, gosh, you're so lazy, you're so unproductive, you never get your work done on time. Let's just imagine that you've got that story running around in your head, right? What you can do that's so simple and yet so powerful is I'm telling myself the story that, you know, I'm so unorganized, I never get my work done. It just feels so different, doesn't it? Can you even hear the shift in my voice when instead of me saying that about myself, I actually say it about the way I'm telling myself that story? Because what it does then, just to explain how this works, is it creates space between the thought that you're having and your emotional reaction and your identity. So instead of, I'm a really shitty person because I yelled at my kids, that makes you feel shitty straight away, right? You can think, well, I'm telling myself the story that I'm a shitty person. And all of a sudden you're in the observer mode. You're able to look at yourself with more compassion, with more understanding. There's a bit of distance between you and the thoughts. So that's the first way that you can upgrade the way you talk to yourself. The second is to actually create a worthiness mantra for yourself and then repeat that mantra over and over again. So one of my favorites is I am perfectly imperfect and I love and accept myself just as I am, you know, or I am a whole human, or I am worthy, I am important, I am enough right now, right here. I don't need to do anything to prove my worth. So choose something that feels really beautiful, really powerful for you. Like try and speak it out loud and get one that really you'll be able to notice your body kind of respond differently when you find a mantra that feels good to you. And then start to say that out loud to yourself every day. You could just kind of almost, you know, notice it in the background, say it out loud, have it written somewhere. But as you do that, you're going to be changing all those neural pathways, of course. And then the third one isn't technically about the way you talk to yourself, but keep in mind when you talk about yourself to other people, you are also, you know, you're hearing it and your heart and soul is hearing that message. So thirdly, just begin to be aware of how you talk about yourself to other people. Are you comfortable celebrating yourself? If someone gives you a compliment, can you accept it? Even if it feels uncomfortable, can you say thank you? You know, I receive that. Can you describe yourself in a kinder, more generous, more loving way rather than always focusing on your flaws? I do believe we live in a society where it's almost like a little bit strange if you go around and you go, oh, you know, if a friend says, how are you? And you go, oh, I'm actually doing really well. Like I'm really proud of myself because, you know, I've been working on my time management and I'm getting more work done. Like how often do you hear people say like good things about themselves? It's so much more common to go, oh, I'm okay. I'm just still really unorganized and I'm still really behind. And, you know, I'm just coming up with random examples here, but you can see the difference, right? So an opportunity to experiment with talking about yourself in a really positive way and sharing the celebrations, the things that you're doing well, your strengths out loud with the people that you love and you trust. Because, we do want to celebrate each other. It's just, there's a big change in culture that needs to happen for us to be able to talk about ourselves and each other in a more positive way. And I believe it's really happening, but I do also believe that we often have to do the inner work first. So I hope that you enjoyed this episode. The reason that I'm so obsessed with self-worth and the way that you talk to yourself is because I very much believe that inner world, the way we talk to ourselves, the way we believe about our self-worth, whether we believe that we're enough, that we're good enough already, directly affects our ability to expand into our dream life. So if we don't believe we're good enough, if we're really critical of ourselves, if we're not kind to ourselves, and that's going to lead to things like procrastination, sometimes anxiety, comparisonitis, like so many different challenges that can stop you from reaching, where you want to be in life, can actually be caused by deep down underlying sense of not being good enough. And so that's why I'm so passionate about this. And I have recently opened the doors to Worthy to Expand, my 6-week power coaching group experience. I would love to have you in there if you feel that worthiness is something that could just use a little bit of a up-leveling. And you want to, be able to dream and expand your life, but without the burnout, without your nervous system being frazzled, then Worthy to Expand is a beautiful, magical, really, really special, really deep opportunity for you to do this work. And you get direct access to me for 6 weeks, 3 group coaching calls, 3 Facebook Lives. It's just going to be magic. So if you would like any more information, all the details are in the show notes, and I will see you next week. Thanks, lovelies.